Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and even though it's not on the agenda, I would still like to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, I don't foresee us taking any votes tonight. We're having a discussion. Um, And that is why I have public comment afterwards, because I thought it would be more beneficial to everybody here and at home to hear our discussion, hear what's happening, and then have public comment. Again, so tomorrow night we are meeting with the town council to discuss this proposed $350,000 reduction in our ask. And the purpose of this meeting tonight is for us to figure out what that would look like for our school department. Um, I can tell you that the town council is not cutting this 350 to lower the tax rate, even if the tax were at its maximum. And with the asks of all the other town departments, they still don't have enough money. They are still short, 250-ish thousand dollars. So even if they brought the tax rate up all the way to its max, they still don't have enough. So everyone's going to have to play their part. All the town departments are going to have to play their part. So we need to be ready and to see what that looks like. And it is my thought, and I'm just one thought, that when we go to the town council tomorrow with ideas of where the cuts might be, I really want the town council to also know what that means for us and what it means for our students and for our schools and our kids' future. I want them to have a very clear idea of the ramifications of any cuts that we might propose. Having said that, of course,
I want to just ask a couple clarifying questions first.
yes.
And I was unable to be at the last school committee meeting and I missed the budget meeting. I know we voted on, I'm well versed with the budget. I did go back and review the minutes. So it appeared when, the school committee met with the budget committee, it was a discussion. And there was nothing that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just trying to, nobody brought up anything regarding a reduction in our budget. Is that correct?
It was a presentation, so
Yep.
we presented to
Yep.
them every the reason why we were asking what we were asking. There was no discussion.
Okay. And then we were notified, I think, Stephanie, did you receive note? How did that the reduction, and I went back and reviewed the minutes from the budget committee meeting that followed that the school committee was not at. And that is where a motion was made and approved for asking for a $350,000 reduction. Is that correct? And then you were notified?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that was just kind of, and just to clarify on, the piece that you just spoke about, regarding the 250,000. So you're saying that if even with us cutting $350,000, the town is still looking for $250,000?
No, and again, it's my impression. No, that's
Okay, I'm just, yeah.
correct. So if all the town departments got what they asked for, with the asks of all the town departments and bringing the tax up to as high as a town can do it, there still isn't going to be enough money of
And
all
that
the
num-
asks.
And that number, if everybody's ask goes in, as you understand it, that is $250,000 above the max for the levy.
And that 250-ish.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're being asked to reduce 350,000. I mean, and again, I'm asking these questions. You may or may not know the answers. Are other departments being asked to reduce? I mean, 350 brings us, that's the entire plus what they're looking for. Am I correct in understanding as, and I know you're not the budget committee, I'm just, and we'll ask these questions tomorrow, but that's just kind of, I'm processing what you're saying.
And that's my understanding. So mind you, everybody here and at home, the final decision happens at the financial town meeting. The town council budget committee has not set how much they want to raise the taxes because they don't know themselves yet, as far as I understand, because they still have another meeting tomorrow night.
Point of clarification, though. I
Yes.
just want to make sure I understand correctly. Yes, the town financial meeting is the final authority, goes back to the voters. But there is a budget that is passed by the budget committee and the town council prior to that.
Correct.
There's a vote that's taken, and
Correct.
that is why, and then all the flyers go out and the mailings go out
Correct.
and those. So there is a vote that's taken. Yes, the final say, but it's the town council / budget committee that ultimately takes the first vote to bring it to the voters.
Correct. So by the time they have a meeting tomorrow night and another one Monday night, because this budget, I believe, is due Thursday, a week from tomorrow. And that's when the town council will decide what the final budget is and what the final tax increase ask will be. That's my understanding.
I don't ask a lot of questions.
That's okay. It's okay. I think it's helpful for everybody.
Yeah, no, and for me, for everybody. So, and there was no, I did check the minutes of I think it was the 23rd, the 24th, there was a budget committee meeting. And I can pull them up because, so it was, there was a motion made, by Dave D'Agostino to reduce our budget. And I'm assuming when they say reduce the budget, it's not clear in the minutes. That's strictly in operations we're looking at. We're not talking capital at this point. $350,000 reductions is our year-over-year operations.
Correct.
But there was nothing in, to say where that number came from.
No,
That's kind of where I'm at a
I want to
loss.
find that out tomorrow night as well.
That's what I'm questioning, Colleen. I don't know if you're done or not.
Yeah, no,
But-
I'm just trying to pull up the minutes.
Yeah.
like,
I was questioning whether is each department getting a certain percentage and that's where the 350 came from was a percentage.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Yep.
So we
don't
don't know
know.
what other departments are being asked, not that we need to, but is it a percentage that everyone's being asked to drop?
It did. I looked back at the minutes from the budget committee meeting when you guys actually met, and there were some questions people asked back and forth, CTE, this, that, and it sounded as though everybody, but then when I went to the minutes from the budget committee following that, it was just kind of like they talked about some costs of transportation and some needs on I'm actually surprised the school budget was discussed at that, because it wasn't necessarily on the agenda. To say that it was going to be, it was kind of a general discussion when I looked at the meeting. So for them to take a vote to reduce it by 350,000, I was kind of taken aback by that. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I got for phenomena typed out.
So, I think at this point, I want to turn it over to the superintendent, knowing and seeing, you know, we already know, actually, before I do that, it's my understanding that the principals presented their first budget to us in the fall, late fall. Um, and it came back too large. And then they were asked to reduce that budget again. I'm not sure how many times they've been asked to reduce that budget, but I seem to recall, or it's my impression that the last time they were reducing their budgets, they were down to line items like reducing it by $50 and $100. Like, oh, you know, you're scraping when you're just like, okay, I guess I can take $50 out of here and $200 out of there. So it's my understanding or impression that, you know, they, if we went back one more time to say, find more money, it's like, now we're down to like $5 and $10. I think they've given us the lowest that they can.
So I would like to ask Stephanie, because I know, to just kind of piggyback on what you were saying, how we started the budget process. I know all the principals submitted budgets directly to Stephanie, and I have a number in my head. It was like, when you go,
10%
yeah,
at that time.
and you know,
And we got it way down. They've really worked so
I
hard
think
on
those
these
numbers are really
budgets.
important. So I think any principal who's worth their weight is going to ask for what they can ask for, and I think that's what they did the first round. And we would all love to give it to you, but it's not no one's first rodeo, right? Like, so but we've gone back how many times now to them
Twice.
to try
There's
and,
just, yeah, it's really scraping
so
the barrel now.
I guess maybe just speaking, and not to pick on the principals, but that's just one piece of, is that, so from the 10%, how do you, roughly speaking, what it went down to, and is it
So we were at 2.6, but now we're at, with this 350 cut, it would be 1.03.
so I don't know that could happen.
It's important to note that our spending, well, it's also important to note that we are getting $700,000, hopefully, because that is always a moving target from the state. But our spending has gone up exponentially because of things that we've talked about that are out of our control, whether it's busing, healthcare, things. So yes, our spending has gone up, but we've also gotten more from the state, but it's still not enough. It's busing, healthcare. What's the third one?
Tuitions.
Tuitions.
Sorry.
Oh, tuitions.
Particularly is special education tuitions.
Correct.
So those are non-negotiable.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
that's, none of that stuff's negotiable.
Correct.
Right? It's just not,
Outplaced students, if you will. Tuitions is not the same as kids going to CTE.
no, and I am very thankful, we were represented well at the budget committee meeting, when even reflecting in the minutes how, shout out to our team at the high school and our entire district, that we are positive, there's a positive flow of money for CTE students, which years ago was our crippling deficit of our budget, was that money going out. So the fact that we've been able to, and again, we're not here to make money, but we're in a net gain as opposed to where we were before, and that's absolutely huge.
And I would just like to caution the committee around the 700,000 state aid that we are slated to get this year. I know I've said it publicly a few times through this budget process, but that number is never static. We cannot count on that the following year.
Mhm.
And if you build that
We
into the
can't even count
base,
on it this year right now.
Correct.
Like, that's the piece that.
correct. But if
That's-
you build that into your base, you are setting yourself up
So-
for a financial cliff.
So
There's no way around it.
and historically, there have been years past prior to anyone at this table being here, and prior to me being here, where we did just that. There were times when the funding formula benefited the town of Scituate, and there was an increase in revenues from the state. And the town on the opposite side put in less. So we created this cliff, because then when the funding went down, and I don't know how many of this table are aware of, and I'm sure Lori and Stephanie, you probably are from the beginning, but when I started on this committee 10 years ago, we had a $1.2 million structural deficit, 1.2 million. And it took us years years to get out of that deficit. And we are, I think maybe 2 years ago, we were finally out of it. And we're setting ourselves back up to this again. That's what I'm afraid of. It's a fiscal cliff that it's just not.
I agree with you, Colleen. I am very concerned about this number because the other big places in this budget, we've already cut to the bone. And if anything goes left or right, if that healthcare number comes in higher than what we have budgeted for, we're already in trouble. We're in big trouble.
I think the other piece that to stress upon, and Stephanie, maybe you can speak to this better than I can, is, and it's the number that makes me one of the numbers that makes me the most nervous, is our attrition rate and the breakage in the personnel item. So I want to say that's at what, like 400?
450. Sorry.
So the way, so to be clear, what's built into the budget is a in the personnel line.
A 3% attrition rate, yes.
3%, but there are a lot of variables that go along with that. So that is, so with that number is 400, 450, 400.
450.
450. And then if we add another
350.
350 to that, we're looking at $800,000.
That is an untenable number for me.
No, it's not. It's personnel. There's nothing else in our contractual obligations for transportation, for special education, there's no movement in those. It doesn't make a difference if we go bankrupt. We still have to do those things by law, right? And that number just makes me, the number moving forward with the budget, with us closing that gap and cutting and having our principals go back at it and take another slice at it, and you reworking numbers and say, oh, no, that's not happening. That still had a $450,000 breakage in the personnel line.
We made that clear to the town budget committee. We told them we are not comfortable with that number. And it's just a number on a piece of paper where we hope it works.
But it's a number on sorry.
And it's also,
It's a number on a piece of paper, but ultimately we're responsible for
Correct.
for balancing that
Correct.
budget, right? It's a number on a piece of paper now until, we have to
correct.
fill those positions and there's no savings, and
Same with the healthcare,
it
like
could be an
700%.
$800,000 deficit in 1 year. 1 year. That's
Correct. That is the risk you are running. That is the risk you are running. And we have not talked about this, but we also get quite a bit of funds from the federal government, and nobody in the state of Rhode Island can tell us what that is going to look like. Stephanie and I were in a hour-and-a-half meeting today with RIDE, and they don't have those numbers, and they don't know when they're going to get them. So all of that makes me very nervous, because those federal funds we utilize for programming and for staffing.
And federal funds trickle to us that way, but federal funds also trickle to us through state
State aid.
funds, which I'm very nervous about the number that was presented in the state of what our budget is right now, based upon all these federal. So there's a lot of risks involved.
Correct.
So in addition to that, everything you've said, Colleen, we have a business model. We have a business model where we need to attract students to come here, to stay here. If it starts becoming known that, Scituate is not doing well, or they may have a funding cliff, maybe more and more families won't move here, less kids will go here, maybe they'll go someplace else. And part of that $700,000, if it stays that much, is directly related to the number that we have of students in our seats, along with attendance. And so we don't want to mess with this business model. I actually have in front of me our letter from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, our accreditation letter. And I've asked Gloria Taylor to send this letter to all the budget committee members, because it highlights of several bullets of the amazing work that this school department has done. And this is our accreditation. This is our accreditation. So you start cutting salary lines, you're going to start cutting, you're going to mess with this. And this is our business model. We are an amazing school and we can't be doing that. So I do have them, hopefully they'll be reading it. If not, I'll bring it anyway. That letter from NIASC, which is amazing. I don't know if did you put it on the website? But I would love the whole community to see this because it's very impressive. Even better.
Why don't we wait? Do you mind getting like a sandwich board to walk around in? They even call those things that anyway, sandwich.
I do want to also note one more piece of the pie where we do have our bond debt service of $175,000. So there is $175,000 that taxpayers will be paying for the bond work that we're having done. I want to make sure we do note that and we're aware of that. It's not in our budget, but it certainly is in what the taxpayers will be paying for the bond work. So I just wanted to make sure we're talking about all the pieces that are involved in this budget.
So there was one piece that. Give me a second if someone else wants to talk. I'm gonna find what I'm looking for. It's like open right now.
We'll wait. I will say that on Saturday, several of us are going to be attending the Rhode Island Association of School Committees annual meeting. And I know one of their topics is unfunded mandates, and will be, I think there's legislation that might be coming out to address that. And I also want to say, and it was talked about at the budget hearing, I believe, because when the town council budget committee said, wow, you're getting $700,000, they know that is not a steady. There's no maintenance of effort that's coming from the state with us. And there's a 3-year cycle. And Stephanie may be able to explain this better than me, but there's generally a 3-year cycle where, this 700,000 is not only is directly related to the number of students that we have here, but it's also part of evaluation that goes on in the town. We fully expect not to get that amount next year, and in that the state is really sending all schools in the state in this big, huge roller coaster yo-yo. So we can pretty much assure we're not getting anything close to that because we are in that year of the 3-year cycle.
That's correct. And I've been here for 3 years. We've never gotten what they said they're going to give us in the 3 years I've been here.
Should we,
Keep going.
did you find it? So, I'd like to hear what are your thoughts on this? So because we do need to at least have a discussion and be prepared to cut our budget of something. Because I bet all the other departments in the town are having these discussions, and as well, I can only imagine, although I don't know, but I can only imagine that all departments are asked to cut across the board. How much, what the percentage is, I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, we can ask tomorrow night. But we are one town. We all need the police department, the fire department, rescue, libraries, senior center. We are one town. We need to work together. And as we are conscientious and aware and supportive of all the other town departments, I can only hope that they are also aware and supportive of the school as well. A lot of the people in these other departments in town have kids in the school or had kids in the school. So we are aware that we are one town, we're one family, and everyone has to play their part. So we do need to come prepared with cuts. And with that preparation, what that means and what that looks like for our school
So
department.
part of me though, and I agree,
We can't go and say no. What's with you?
well, I don't know, like we've done, so I think we went into this with, we did our due diligence prior to, like, we didn't just come up with a budget. If we had presented the first budget that came forward, yeah, I can see where, because I'm sure if Stephanie went through with it, when we had those 10% ask and we wanted to add a full-time here and a full-time here and a full-time here, if you added that up, we've cut, I'm sure, a lot more than $350,000. But we did due diligence before, trying to do what's right by, first and foremost, the students, but truthfully by the taxpayers, right? Like we're funded through tax dollars. So we did that place where, yes, we'd love to have this. Thank you guys for asking for all this. It just can't happen. We did that part already. So what do we do now?
You
we
know,
take
that's
away-
it's
we-
a good question.
We take away what we think is essential. I don't know the answer to that. And I also don't know, I would like to know, I'm just kind of befuddled by the whole process. Like, where did this $350,000 come
I don't-
from? Like,
I don't know.
350, like, what, like,
Do we come back to them with a counter proposal? And if so, what is that?
Oh, in some ways, I think the principals have done a wonderful job. They came to us with their wishes and we worked with a counter proposal. We got a counter proposal and that's what we presented. I don't know how much more we can ask of principals to cut.
and I don't know how much these other departments,
Yeah,
and,
how much?
and I'm not, again, I agree with you 100%. We are one town and I don't, again, I have an immense amount of respect for all the different departments within this, but how many of them sat in public meetings for the last 2 to 3 months, whittling it down, trying to get it to the place where it is today? Do you know what I mean? I don't think any of them did. So if you start at their top number and they, 2%, 3%, 10%, whatever it is, it looks very different. I almost wish we didn't do
Yeah,
our
we
due
didn't cut it
diligence.
down.
It's like buying a car, right? You go in, ask high, go low, I mean, that's not how we're trying to operate. We're one town. There should be a mutual respect that what we're asking for, we need. And it's just difficult that this 350.
Well, do we present it that way then? The fact that this is what we originally had and we worked on cutting it down and this is how much we've cut down. I don't know if we can come up with a dollar amount of how much we cut from A to B, where we are now.
I think that would be valuable, Stephanie,
Yeah,
to look
this
at.
is
like,
where we started.
without recreating the wheel and doing nuggets and schematics and everything else. We know you, but you know where this process started. And I know stuff cut before it even came to us. Do you know what I mean? You're,
Mhm.
nope,
Yeah, you
sorry.
guys cut it.
Like,
Strategically, of course, now it's all out there for everyone to hear our strategy, or at least my thoughts.
Mhm.
Do we want to go through the exercise of, all right, maybe we can take, I'm making this up, $200,000. Maybe we can cut $200,000. And by doing that, we can tell our story of what that's going to do to our students. And as opposed to saying, nope, I'm thinking out loud. I'm purely just thinking out loud. As opposed to going to them and say, this is it. This is all we have. And then they cut us anyway without us telling our story of what that would mean to our school department. Does that make sense? Does that strategy make sense? To go in and say, we can't cut anything. I think everyone's gonna have to cut something, and I just want them to know what that means. That's my thought. Does that make sense?
I think Colleen's right. I think we're at that 10% that we started at with everyone's wishes. Before I came here, I had so many, I'm going to be honest with you. There was so many of drafts
I know.
that I left them on my table
I did the same thing.
at home because I
You'd
wanted
be
to be,
confused. I know.
well, I wanted to go what we're currently working with. And I saw, she's right. I saw that we went from cut. We even had
10.
another budget, 10 to
6.
6. There was one that was 3. We had one that was 2.54 and one was 3. Am I right? It was 3 point something.
The 2.54
Oh,
became
2.75. There was
It was
multiple ones. There was multiple ones.
So from the 10.89%, which was all the asks, to the 2.6%, it was $1,848,221 we took off.
Right. So I think we should,
job out there.
I think we should bring
That's our story.
our story because I looked at it and I see absolutely nothing else to cut. I don't know. That's my opinion. I can't. And like you said, we want to be attractive to other people to this town. And when they start seeing or hearing that we have, you
And we
know,
want to do right by our own students first and foremost.
Right,
Like,
right,
I respect that
right,
as
right.
We have an obligation.
exactly.
As members of the school committee, to advocate for what is in the best interest of kids.
Oh,
period.
there's no doubt. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I think we did do our due diligence by reduction by, was it 1.4, like, and those are the.
That was a
like,
lot.
Next time, I'm just gonna let the principals loose at the budget committee. You start, we'll finish.
So am I hearing that no one wants to entertain a discussion of cut proposals? That we're gonna go back to the council like, no, we're not cutting anything, zero?
What are we gonna cut? I mean,
So if they come back to us, I'm just asking, so the next step, if they say, that's not attainable for whatever the reason is that we don't know, right? We don't know all the information yet. We don't know, we do know that, if the town were to grant everybody their ask and raise the taxes to their maximum, they're still short $250,000 that we know. So if they do come back and ask us,
and that $250,000 is if my understanding is correct, is the exact amount that was misappropriated. I don't know if I use the right word. There was an error last year on the town side where so we started off in the whole 200, that had nothing to do with the schools. There was an error on the town side that was $250,000 that they weren't, Providence Water Supply Board wasn't taxed properly. So now what I'm sitting here looking at is we're being asked to absorb that entire 250. And I get it, we're the biggest of the, any municipality is, it's monies go to schools and then some. Right?
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I can see the optics of that. I can tell you that the police department was there when we were presenting, and they're not getting anywhere near what they need. I know they need more.
They also presented a prior time and then were asked for reduction where we already created a reduction before we presented.
Right.
So they reduced.
Following their presentation.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sure the
We
chief
didn't-
did his due diligence, went out to the
Mhm.
patrols and the rank and file. What do we need? This is what it is. Okay, this is what I'm gonna present.
Mhm.
Nope, sorry, chief, that's not, okay,
Go back and
just
work
like
it
we
out.
did with our principals, but it's a different, again, I don't say that in any disrespect to the police
No.
department, it's a different, they don't function as a public body, right? Like it's.
I
Uh,
question whether they've been presented several times, very detailed questions, answers. Where do they think we can cut this money from? I mean, have they looked and said, oh, it should really come out of there, get it out of there? I don't know where this money can actually be created. If their eyes see something, we're not, they should be discussing.
Did you get any indication of?
She looked at you.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at Stephanie. Any indication? I know they called and asked questions about busing.
So in prior years, well, only since I've been here, they give a number and we don't normally go back and say where it's
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be
yeah.
cut. It's more of a school committee decision
Yes.
where it will be cut. and
Stephanie, who contacted you?
Chucky.
Okay.
But I normally do get contacted because it's financial about the cut, or Carolyn would have, then she'll call me right away, so we know about it, but normally there's not a go back, but because we've never seen a cut like this, maybe that's why we're going back. So I'm still trying to understand this process too, because it seems like it's a little different than in usual years, if that makes sense.
So it sounds like out of respect and concern for the size of the cut, they want to have a dialogue with us, which is why I want to be prepared for that dialogue of, if they say no, we can't fund all of this, I want to be able to say, well, then the only place it can come out of is salaries. We already agreed upon that. Not that we had any choice. There's no choice. And then that's why I want to have the discussion of, well, if we get rid of whatever salaries, I want to be able to tell them the story of what that's going to do to our students. I know that, Colleen, in the past, you've brought up the very difficult conversation of cutting a second grade. Is it second grade at Hope? Second grade. If we, as an option, that would be like, this is like the last thing that we're even going to. We've been hanging on to this. But I want them to know, if that's part of the discussion, what that looks like for those students at our Title I school, and explain it to them. If we don't come with a story, this is my concern, and I don't know, again, I'm telling the world, if we don't come with a story, unless we can just do it on the fly, they won't fully understand what that means.
So it took me a minute because my phone was acting up, but so I'm going back to the meeting that they had
That we were there?
no, the one that we weren't there on, April 24th. So the minutes from that meeting, reflect that as far as discussion regarding the school department, it says, this was under general discussion. The committee discussed the school department budget. They reviewed the transportation section of the school's budget and their anticipated revenue. If school projects are substantially completed by the end of fiscal year 25, and I'd like to talk about this separately after I finish that, $160,000 in state aid is not listed yet in revenue, will be received. There was discussion about increases in town expenses. Following that discussion, it said Dave D made a motion to have the school department cut. Now we're talking about $160, 160,000, which I'm thinking would come out of that would be a part of capital, which is completely separate and apart from, so we'll keep that to a side. So we have 160,000 in capital. And then Dave D made a motion to have the school department cut $350,000 from their proposed budget. Peter M seconded the motion. There was 1 against and 6 in favor, passing the motion. Ted P made a motion to invite the school department to the next budget committee meeting. Dave D seconded the motion, and all were in favor of passing the motion. I'd like to know who voted for and against, because it was 6-1. I don't know why the minutes wouldn't reflect that. I don't. But so there were 7 members there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like there's 11 members of the budget committee. So let's just for 1 second talk about that 160,000. Can you touch on that stuff for us, please?
From what I'm hearing, my understanding is that they're confusing the capital money with the general fund.
So, but let's just look at it with capital, if it truly is capital, right? Because the other question I have, and I don't see this on, and I think it's on our agenda. So what we're talking about, all this money that we're talking about right now is strictly out of operation. So this is the budget year after year, that maintenance of efforts, that whole piece. This is your salaries, benefits, all sorts of things. We have a separate and apart capital budget. Are they also looking to reduce that?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's just throw that number out there. Is that 352?
So they said level funding. So that, to my understanding, that would be the 426,000, I believe it was, that they gave us last year, because we had asked for 500,000. Sorry, $426,300 is what they gave us last year. We had asked for 500,000, so they cut $73,700. So this year we asked for them to restore that. So when they say level fund,
We're trying to get back to the
right. Because that money, and to your point, and where I think the confusion is happening, maybe on the town side or
based on these minutes anyway,
right, based on the
right?
minutes.
Like that's what's reflected.
That
in
money
public
is separate and
document.
apart from our general fund money,
So-
and that's Rhode Island housing money. That's
And correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of time when these monies, and again, for years, we didn't even collect these monies because there wasn't a process in place, and we do now, and that's what's been able to fund a lot of what we're doing. Kudos to, of the they're saying that we could realize another $160,000 in capital and money's coming back in. Is that true?
So it depends on
Yeah.
how we bundle things, but I think where some confusion is also if it's bond money. So if we're doing a project down
yeah.
the bond, it goes back to the town. That's not money
Yeah,
we get.
because it goes towards payment of the bond, the interest, so they're thinking like, oh, they just got an extra 160K to play. No.
And that particular figure is not a figure I have, so I don't know if that's money that they're counting
So
on
we-
coming
that-
back to
I
the
think
bond.
That's
maybe.
absolutely part of a
But
discussion.
the money that we can see coming in, and it's on the, well, I don't know, nobody has it today, but the amount that we had coming back in from Rhode Island Housing money, and again, it's always from the year before.
Yeah.
So in 25, nothing came back in because it all went to the bond. And in 26,
As it's set up to do, so we're
Right,
like, it's
right,
bringing
right, right.
down the.
in 26, it's 37,000 because we have all bond projects right now. Fire alarms.
I'm just looking at the members who are present, and one of the and again, this is no shade on them because I get it. They meet all the time and everybody has. I do notice that Mr. Griglovich was not there, who was on our building committee. So
We had a building committee meeting that night. He was at the building committee meeting.
us,
That's
yes.
why he was not at the.
Okay.
town.
And again, no, but I don't, it sounds to me, unless we have to meet with them, right? These are assumptions that we're making, but if their minutes are reflecting, we don't have, like, even if we're pertaining just to capital, there's not 160K floating in.
And again, if projects moved or we had another urgent project that went in and it wasn't on the bond, then that would be money that we'd get back. We get 40, well, anywhere from 35 to
Depending.
40%,
Right.
depending upon how we strategically do the
We have ways
projects.
To get that money
Right.
back. So that would be, it's not something that's already slated to be done.
Right. And it's not
something we're
definite, yeah.
presently funding.
Right.
So we'd have to have that additional money. So I'd like to have them elaborate on that too.
Are you going to make it tomorrow night?
Yes.
So I need to know where the school committee stands on what we want to do tomorrow.
I think I'd like to hear from the public too, before we.
Oh, yeah, I'm not taking a vote.
No, but I think it would be helpful for us to hear from them, everybody, before we come up with what our strategies are gonna be.
I can do that.
Representative of the people.
I will say,
Sit right there, get in the front, get in the first spot. Finnegan, don't try and cut him off.
as you know, the public comment period is not a time for dialogue, although I might be a little bit fluid on that because this is a different type of meeting. A meeting of the public school committee is not a meeting of the public. It is a meeting of the school committee that is held in public. The purpose of the public comment period is for this committee to receive input from the community, which is what we're getting ready to do. Public comment is an important function and is critical for us to listen to the community and to consider what we hear when making our decisions. In general, it is not a time to receive direct responses. Again, I might be fluid with that tonight because of the nature of the meeting from the school committee. However, we may provide brief factual clarification if necessary. Otherwise, the public comment section is for you to voice your concerns without engaging in a debate with the school committee members. It is important for you to know that you may not be getting answers to your questions concerning during this public comment, but that does not mean you will not be given your answers. There are other opportunities for you to get your answers. For example, you can call or email any school committee member. You can reach out to your school parent PACT representative. This process is designed to allow consistency and fairness and to allow everyone a chance to be heard without unduly disruption of the meeting flow and allowing the school committee to complete its business in a timely fashion. As a result, in order for everyone to have an opportunity to speak and an opportunity for us to hear all your comments, I'll allow each person to come to the mic once during public comment. If you find that you have additional comments after your turn is over, then please address them at a later time. Again, I might be fluid with that. I am going to, before I go into public comment, see how many people want to have a public comment. Just so I can kind of gauge if there's going to be 50 people that want a public comment versus 5 people. I'm exaggerating. Then I might curtail that. Having said that, we appreciate you coming to this meeting and we thank you in advance for expressing your thoughts with us. So how many people in this audience now? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Just was that a 5? So I only see 5. That's so 7 people. And that doesn't mean that if you didn't raise your hand, I will not hear from you. I just wanted to get a gauge for that. If each person speaks for 10 minutes, that's 70 more minutes. That's kind of a lot, I would think. So come up and, if you can keep it to 5 minutes or less, that'd be great. And if you have any further, go ahead, Matt. Name and address.
It's Matthew Allen, 159 Hope Furnace Road. So I attended the April 17th meeting that you missed. Me and Chase actually attended it. It was the longest 90 minutes of my life. For him too. He watched YouTube. He only a little bit of stimming, but I'm kind of surprised that they're asking you to cut because they were really shocked about your benefits. Like, I don't understand everything that was up there, but the benefits, they were really concerned that you guys were dangling by like dental floss if something goes wrong. And they did bring up like special ed and transportation, but they already knew that you guys were dangling. So I feel like some of them were getting the fact that there really was no wiggle room and that they could see. I'm surprised that I went 6-1 vote. But I'm up here because I feel like it's constantly the second grade teacher at Hope now. We were trying to get a kindergarten back because of the numbers that were presented. Now our kindergarten is going up, and now they're going to cut another teacher possibly if we are forced to. Last year, you guys had us cut because of the budget, and we went and we teetered back and forth with the town, obviously, after the budget was already set. And it was kind of like, hey, this is what we gave you, kind of like no shot to anybody on the school committee, but it was like, this is the number and you need to work with it. And kind of, I think we need to semi put our foot down and be like, this is the number, we need it. But I really feel like, minus getting your parents to take every kid to school and not have any buses.
Very good. So I think it's interesting if I can just, these will count as my minutes, not yours, I promise. And I think you were involved last year too, where, and I never thought I'd say this out loud, but I'd say it right to her face. Oh my God, I wish Bobby Coletta was here.
She's up there.
Bobby! I say that in the best place possible. And oh, look at, she's got the hair in the brain. So you remember last year when we were going back and forth on this, and that's when Councilman Collins said directly to you, oh, we didn't know this, we didn't know that. If we had known that, well, that's what tomorrow night's going to be.
Yeah,
right.
It was Mike and Bobby and myself
Yeah,
that went
that
back and forth.
Yep. And they said, oh no, we didn't know that. Well,
And then we came back to you guys and was like, hey, they said.
Yep. And then
And
when
then
we went
they-
there, what happened? Right. So no, I appreciate, and again, it's going to take, I so appreciate everyone being here tonight, but we really need people to show up tomorrow night to express their concerns. And this isn't the first time we've been down this road. And you're right. It's all going to come from the personnel line.
And about the building, because they were also bringing up why the cost of getting things fixed around the school, the number has gone up. And they explained that when you guys went through the building, or whoever went through the building in 2018, prices have jumped. So the longer you guys wait for the projects, the more the money is going to go up.
Mhm.
And I'm like, they're not going to obviously pull millions of dollars out to get them all done now, because then more will pop up. But they obviously look at their own electric bill. They know everything is going up. But you're taking, again, the hit, if need be, is not only going to be from the teachers, but it's going to be from that Title I school that needs the most help, is what I got to say about that. Again, I'm sure Bobby's up there with numbers and sounds a little bit better, but like I said, I sat through that meeting and they asked questions, and there was one guy, I don't know whoever was with the bow tie on the far left, he seemed to understand
That's Ray Gregolovich.
why, like, the things were going up and why
Yes, and
things
so
were moving.
Ray
He
is
chairs
the
the building
chair
committee.
of, and again, I'm so glad you said that, Lori, that I did hear that too, that unfortunately there were two meetings scheduled on the same night. Ray probably has the greatest understanding of the capital piece
Yeah.
of what it is. He's been on that budget committee for or the building committee rather for a very long time, and post-COVID things just
Yeah.
it's yeah.
From my view, from what I saw, there was like questions and answers, and I thought we were on like the semi. I didn't think they were going to give you what your budget was because I figured they'd ask everybody to cut some, but I really thought they seemed to be on the page that you guys cut as much as, but 350, I have no idea where that's going to come from.
If I could just ask Mike Hassel to come up, I want people to realize what positions have been cut in the high school in the past few years. Just so people realize there are multiple things going on in multiple schools in terms of really taking a strong look at keeping this budget reasonable.
All right, thank you. Yes, and thank you for supporting the budget. It's unfortunate that we're in this position. I'll, echo some of your statements that the principals really, you heard it. I mean, we're 10% ask, and I'll speak for the high school. The department chairs gave me what they need. The 10% wasn't even like, it wasn't. So, we truly have whittled the budgets down to needs based. So at the high school every year, we do course selection. We saw declining enrollment, just like most suburban schools throughout the country and in Rhode Island, especially right before COVID. So when Lori came in, we worked together to really take a look at what students chose. And we truly have every single year looked at that with a lens of fiscal responsibility. It's a balance between what can we offer. We're one of the smallest high schools in the state with Narragansett. We also, as you've said tonight, our business model is working. We went from spending over $2 million in out of district placement for students who live in Scituate leaving, who are now staying here. For the most part, this is the first year that we're in the black. We have 70 students who are here from out of district who joined us for the CTE program, and we have about less than 40 who are choosing to leave and go somewhere else. So those numbers have helped us. We would have shut our doors if we didn't have those career and tech programs. We're also seeing, in town, we're seeing our numbers increase. So this year was the biggest that the high school has been in years. And that's a factor. When we did see that declining enrollment, we truly look at course selection. And again, every year we look at it with a fresh lens of contract says 25 students at the high school per class. If we have 100 kids and there's 100 kids in ninth grade, it's typically 25 kids with 4 sections. It would be, we know it's best for kids and teachers to run classes with 12 kids in them, but it's not fiscally responsible. We know, Lori and I and Stephanie and the high school team have worked hard to ensure that. Since I've been here in this position over 9 years, we've had a STEM and science teacher leave. We didn't replace that position. We made the choice to eliminate a full-time health and PE teacher at the high school level. Last year, we eliminated a full-time math teacher at the high school level, and we saw some pretty major impacts. Our math classes are packed. We've reduced an ELA teacher from a full-time to a 90%. We've reduced a social studies teacher to an 8%. So over just the past 3 years, we have truly taken a lens at the high school, and we've really looked at those numbers. But we have a small number of AP Calculus students. It's a small class. It's a great class. Hopefully we all get 5s on the exam. But if we didn't offer that, that's not right for our students who want to go into college. If we didn't offer Spanish 4, our students couldn't get into Providence College and Brown University and Columbia and all these great things that we're seeing. Because we have 400 students, we shouldn't punish them to not offer the most rigorous courses that colleges are looking for as well. So I think that answers your question. We truly have had
Mr.
a
Hassel, based
Yeah.
on course selection, and I know this from previous years, I 1000% agree. We need to have that rigor for those top achievers, and that without that, where are we, right? That's what we're striving to have these kids go. But there are times that you have not run courses
absolutely.
simply
Yes.
I'm not talking about those. There are the core ones that we need to have our high achieving students be able to go on to. I mean, your high school's not going to provide you with you can't get into a state school at like PC's in the state. You can't,
Absolutely. Yep.
but there's also been a number of courses I know that based upon selection and that you just haven't been able to run.
Absolutely. When we redid our program of study,
Yes.
for example, there's a social studies class that Mrs. Seeger runs. It's great. It ran 1 or 2 years. It's about 9/11 and the Holocaust, and it's a great course, and they worked hard on it. It hasn't run in 3 years because we just looked at the numbers. I think there were maybe 3 students who signed up for it. So we're not going to run that. So every year we take a fresh lens and say, what realistically can run, should run, and what can't
And
run.
kudos to you at the high school level. I know there's ways of thinking outside of the box with, I'm going to get the verbiage wrong, but the network of
The ACN, the
Yeah.
all-course network. Yeah.
There's
We have
different
several
ways
students who are
that
taking
we
courses. too.
kind of help. It's a friend to the small district, right?
Yeah.
Like that we're trying to meet the needs. And I'm not going to ask you to speak about it. Maybe you can, but some of these same reductions have happened at the middle school as well. There was,
I was just going to speak
yeah,
to that because
please.
Dana is not here
Yeah.
this evening. She had a previous
Thank you.
commitment. Thanks, Mike. But we cut a whole team at the middle school. They had cut one right before I came, and then I cut another one based strictly on numbers. So, we have looked at places where we can be fiscally responsible without negatively impacting students as much as possible, right? There's always going to be a touch, always. But we try to do the least amount of harm when we have to make those difficult decisions. So we've made them across the district.
Hi, Stephanie Mickelson, 150 Gleaner Chapel Road. The only thing I want to say is please share the letter that Hope School sent you about how it would affect, how the cuts would affect the schools.
Good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they may not get it in time, but I will do that.
That night, be over it.
Oh, well, I want to get it to them ahead of time. I'm just making notes, so come on up, please.
Nighty Simeone, 11 Troutbrook Lane. You said you wanted them to know the story, and we are the story. I don't think cutting the classrooms at Hope are the best idea. We chose our home based on the location to the school. I've met with you guys before. We've talked about it plenty of times, came to a few meetings. But pushing children into a school outside of their district, especially at 7 years old, is not okay. My daughter was a happy-go-lucky kid, and by the time she gets home from the long travel she has to take, she is miserable. So that is definitely your story.
Thank you. I'm just writing notes of what you're saying, even though I can go back and watch it. Yes.
Hi. Sorry, Hobbit size. Shayna Smith, Elmdale Road. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for having a very transparent and healthy conversation in front of everybody. I know Mrs. McCormick, you had made a statement about like saying what the game plan is going to be, but I think that that's fair to kind of have that game plan going in and having all of us as parents kind of understand what the thought process is. So thank you for that. Having municipal budget experience myself, I know that it's extremely difficult to go through the working sessions that you all have to. So I completely commend your effort on there. Because you have to build something that's not only palatable, but fiscally responsible for all of us. So what's concerning, however, is how the school committee is seemingly being backed into this corner by the town council to make these reductions towards an educational spending plan that was honestly carefully crafted by each and every one of you and not a member of the town council. And so I'm going to be a little bit sassy here, but there was a comment that was made earlier about it came across as maybe seeming to appease the town council. And there's this meme with Tobey Maguire, who is the original Spider-Man. And the joke is that he keeps saying I forgot the part where that's my problem. So I'm going to say this, I forgot the part where this is our problem, where, we've had history has shown that year after year, we haven't gone in a positive trend of creating a fiscal spending plan from the municipal side and or the education side, where we get to this place where we can have healthy, small increments. So, at a time, which gets us to where we are today. The parents and taxpayers do entrust its school committee to develop optimal fiscal budget for our learners, not our town government, whose members do lack that firsthand knowledge that you all have surrounding the true needs of the administrators, of the parents, and of the students. And I implore you not to consider, or to rather consider your role here as members of the Scituate School Committee. It's not to appease our friends who are serving on these boards and committees, but rather it's to serve the brilliant minds that are walking down these hallways. And we've already seen how disruptive it can be when we have funds that are no longer made available. I know that we talked about potentially having $700,000. It remains to be seen. I think it is very prudent that we're all building a budget that, that doesn't have that in mind, because heaven forbid we put our eggs in one basket, and obviously then we'll be in trouble. So if we do continue, however, approving reductions to our spending plans so that on paper it might look good, or may look good to people that we elected in place recently, we've truly committed a disservice to our students. And so the downward trend that we're on has this negative lasting impact, which I know I don't need to explain to all of you. Some of that being the larger classroom sizes, which means not enough attention to the students who may have varying educational needs, and those needs aren't being met because of the educators. Creating a structural deficit, and then the increases to the contractual agreements and operation cuts. Those are all things to consider before you guys head into that meeting tomorrow night, which it sounds like you guys have already had those discussions and you're well aware. So I'm also going to put on my hat as chairwoman of the Scituate Democratic Town Committee right now, whose members have also expressed that they're in favor of not making any reductions and just leaving it status quo. You guys know what you're doing. We fully believe in what you've been doing, and we hope that you can go there tomorrow night, stand your ground, put your heels down. Don't feel like you are under any obligation to adhere to the request of $350,000. I am asking that you go and share the story, but they say we don't have anywhere else to go. And even if they say we need you to do this, you don't need to do anything. What you need to do is to let the taxpayers go to the financial town meeting and to see how they feel about it, because we're just only a few people here. Not everybody is here. And I know we don't have usually extremely high numbers at the financial town meeting, but I'm hopeful that the parents after last year's town meeting will come and be able to express their concerns with making a further reduction. In fact, I'm hearing that we want more dollars in there. So you can probably expect that we're going to be making motions to add funds to you all. So I hope that we can have this continued symbiotic relationship where we understand what your needs are and you understand what our needs are. Thank you.
Anyone else here in the audience? Then I will head over to the people on Zoom. Who's ever on top, I guess? Desiree Martinelli? Hi,
Hello.
Desiree. Obviously, we know your name. We just need your address.
62 Carew Drive.
Thank you.
I'm here, obviously, yes, you know me. And I am here again to sort of say what everyone else is saying, that I appreciate that we are one town. But I think at the end of the day, you represent the school committee. Like everybody kind of at this point, I think everyone kind of is at a point that they sort of need to fend for themselves a little bit, because we don't want to lose, any of our dollars. The other thing that I would sort of like to point out that I think is often not looked at when we're looking at our evaluations for schools and the money that we put into them is the correlation between having a high ranking school and our property values. So I just kind of want to say, so based on some of the research that I've done, and I was in real estate for a long time, so the financial impact of having a school that is underperforming is so significant. So it's basically, if you drop like 1 point, like your home value could potentially drop 3%. So I think in the overall picture of things, it's important to look at that, because if for some reason our schools do decline and we are not sort of like having these top ranking and top testing, placements, then there is a decline in the value of our homes, which essentially is a decline in our property value and what our taxes would actually bring in. So for the town of Scituate, even if there was a moderate decline, that could affect, based on the median home price, about $52,000 for like the average person's home in this town of Scituate, on a, just on a small decline. So I think it's important to sort of look at that, just in saying to the town council that when you're investing in the schools, you're investing in the overall town, in everybody's value, in everybody's home value, and everybody that has property here. Because if for some reason our schools decline, then we lose all of that. We lose a significant amount of our property value, which is a significant amount of money. And people think of Scituate and they think of the school system. That's why, my husband is from here, but that's why we came back here. I think so many people do come back here for it. There are a lot of other things about this town that are amazing and great. But at the end of the day, when you think of Scituate, you think of their schools and you know that they have a reputable school system. So I just think that we kind of need to also stress that if we are not investing in our school system and we are cutting corners and we are short-sighted, and it reflects in our students' testing and scores and, overall where we end up in rankings and things like that, it really is so detrimental to like the overall town itself. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. And we have Bobby Coletta.
You guys couldn't get a meeting without me, I guess. Bobby Coletta, 9 Bread Drive. I just want to say I'm so grateful that I've been kind of coming along this year and have learned from all of you in this process. I concur with the earlier statements that it was a very healthy and transparent conversation that we're having tonight, and I appreciate you guys kind of giving us that information. And Desiree's point is one that I think is a very, very valid one. And I'm so glad that she brought it up. I also want to say I appreciate Mr. Hassel's commentary and their rigor around course loads. And I think, when I think about going into this meeting tomorrow, and it was asked like our strategy, I think the motion around investing in our property values is one. I also think you guys have created this trajectory of having people want to come to this district, having, we've created this momentum, right? And we look at the athletic field now being available. So there's momentum behind us. So if we're gonna really lean into that strength, we have to find, we have to feel that you have all earned that, and that that $350,000, where Lord only knows where they came up with that number. I mean, that should be number one, explained to us all. But I think there's a lot of data and substance behind why we're saying we don't feel like we can cut more. We have the trajectory that we're trying to lean into and just keep that momentum going. And so I know it's difficult for us to press back on the town council, but I also think they did us a disservice last year as well by kind of volleying it back and forth and putting this tension between, us and, parents and the committee and whatnot. And so I think we just, everyone has worked really, really hard this year too to understand each other's side. And I just think that we have, like I said, an opportunity tomorrow to share the strengths of what you guys have already done around the budget cuts, and the rigor that Stephanie has done with the her budgeting. Right, I think that this is a far cry from where the school was 3 or 4 years ago. And so, how do we amplify that story tomorrow?
Bobby, I just want to say, I think we have come a long way. I'm requesting your presence at school committee meetings now. Did you hear me early? I'm like, where's Bobby when we need her? And boom, there you were.
I am here.
Thank you for your comments.
Anyone else?
Jenna Rutherford, 334 Bungay. Colleen, earlier you said something to the effect of, we're not a business. I would kind of argue we are. I believe we are the only department in the town that makes the town money. I might be wrong, there might be another one, but our good schools make us money. They can't take that away or we're going to lose money. It's just facts.
No, I think I absolutely agree with you 100%. I think as educators and as educators out there and members of the committee here, our primary focus can never be to make money. When we started our CTE programs before, our objective was to service the needs of our kids. We're not a money-making industry, but
No, I
1,000
agree.
yeah,
But
and
at the end of the day, it's money,
from a
right?
philosophical point of view, yeah, and that was some of what I was talking with. I kind of stepped over to Steph and Lori earlier too, when we're looking at. So we're and not to steal, I keep taking everyone's time.
It's okay. I'm stopping the clock when you talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that.
I had stepped aside to Lori and Stephanie before too, because it was kind of clicking in my head. And as Mr. Hassel said, we're projected to be or are right now, I think $182,000 in the red for CTE, right? So that means what's going out, what's going in. But those aren't monies. Black. Oh yeah, black. I said, oh, Stephanie almost had it. I did mean in my head, I was saying Mr. Hassel is giving me a glare. So yes, those are, but again, I think my piece of that is too, is like, oh my God, what if we didn't have that extra $200,000 to help offset those costs of CTE? Because that's not our sole purpose. We're educating. Do you know what I mean? I totally respect. You're right. And then if these programs suffer, then we're going to end up back in a place where we were before, where we were in the red, not the black, Mr. Hassel.
I would just encourage town council to cut from a place that isn't going to lose us money in the end. There's other departments. So
Somebody.
Nope.
Oh, please do that first.
Hi, Heather. If you could just give us your address because we see your name on the Zoom.
Hi, do I give my home address if I don't live in town or just my position?
Your home address. It doesn't have to be the exact street, just like your town.
Position, I think you're
You think? Are you here as a? Are you here as a?
I'm here as STA president.
Absolutely,
Okay,
that's what you need to tell us. Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
Heather Daly, STA president. I want to just point out that it's not a secret we're in a negotiation year with the teachers right now, and call attention to making retention of staff a priority when we talk about the budget. We have an experienced staff, and the school department has put a lot of time and effort into staff development over the years. And we're also in a teacher shortage. Attempted poachings happen all the time. We've lost several teachers and other staff members to other districts for one reason or another. And things that can contribute to that type of situation are salary freezes, salary reductions, lack of an increase in salaries, as well as changes in working conditions that are adverse. So I think that's an important thing to bring to the table as well. We want to retain the staff that we have, the strong working relationships that we have, because along with our size, I think that the teachers and other staff members that we have and the working relationships that we have are an important asset that we need to maintain.
Those are really good points, Heather. I'm glad you mentioned them. And actually, on the agenda for the May regular meeting, I want to have a discussion about salaries because we need to have that discussion. Our salaries in this town for the school department are not where they need to be. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
Heather, I thank you for your comments. Mrs. Daly. And I 100% agree with you. I think besides our students, our number one asset within this district is our teachers. So you're absolutely right that we do have a very seasoned, very dedicated group of educators throughout, from PK up through 12. So we want to, when openings come, we want to attract good teachers, but most importantly, we want to retain the teachers that we have. I do not want you to answer, but I am inviting you or anybody from the STA to attend the meeting with us tomorrow, to bring those points forward as well. It would be greatly appreciated. I know you go above and beyond for doing what you're doing. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I just want you to know that you or any member would certainly be welcome to address the budget committee tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you think about it, the school department is full of people, and people are expensive, and that's what that is what drives our budget. You know, you have the Department of Public Works. You know, a lot of what's in their budget is paving roads, which we all use to get here. You know, we like it when the roads are paved. We like it when they're plowed of snow. But you know, paving is paving, and yes, we need it, but we are an industry of people, and people are expensive and worth it. So it's something that you can't compare the school department to the other departments, because what we are is a business of people. And where computers are taking over, AI is taking over, you can't do that in the school department. We need people here, we need teachers here, and that is what our salaries are paying for, and we really have to honor that, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Is there anyone else that has a comment or a question?
I just have,
Of course.
two things. One was a question, Stephanie, and I don't know if you have this number in front of you. What is the difference in local appropriation from last year to this year?
Clarifying question.
Yeah.
In our ask last year to our ask this year, or
No,
from what we received last year
Yep.
to what they are proposing to give us this year.
I'd like to first know what our local ask, what we received last year in local appropriation, right? That's a
Okay.
solid number.
Yep.
And then what our ask is now prior to that $350,000 reduction.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, I can start in 22 if that's helpful, because I have it on here.
Easy. Just give me one year at a time.
Okay.
Mine's gonna get all up.
So, okay, so last year in FY 2025, the local appropriation was $22,308,397.
Okay.
And from that appropriation to what we were asking for was a 2.6. With the 350,000 gone, it's a 1.03.
I'm not even.
Okay.
So.
Just the
now-
number. You just want the number?
Yeah, so we're asking for, strictly on a local side.
Okay. Now remember, 24 was a 15-month budget. So I'm going to give you,
So we're talking about, the math isn't making sense in my head, and someone needs to help me, maybe. So,
580,000.
but it's really the percentage, so like, and you already had it written down for me, so my partner here helped me with and maybe I'm missing a piece, so the max levy is 4%. And our numbers right now, after we've done the reductions, not with their new request, we are at a 2.5%.
Yes.
well, 2.6. Yep.
2.6.
We round down on 4.
Yes.
Let's get it, but that's fine, 2.6.
It was 3-0.
How does
Yeah,
that
no,
equate?
we cut it again. Remember
So
the last time?
How does that equate to us being, again, we're the biggest piece of the budget, like the town's budget. That's what it is. And no one can argue that. No one's going to try to argue that. But if we're asking for a 2.6% increase, how can we, the largest piece of the budget, right, be exceeding 4%? Do you follow my question?
It's
It's a $1.4 million increase. 700,000 is state aid.
No, I'm asking for,
That's the overall.
Dave, put your mic on.
Oh,
my question was local appropriations only. Local appropriations. So the tax cap does not have to do with state aid. I'm just trying to dig down.
Yep, that's what I'm giving you.
Right?
Just local
So-
appropriation.
Based on, regardless of what those numbers are, right? It is the way we presented the budget to the budget committee. We were asking for a 2.6% increase. So a 2.6% increase. I'm just saying this over my head so
Mhm.
it can go. But Erica, you're saying that you're being informed that the town is stating that even if they brought the taxes to the max at 4%,
Minus the
still-
228,000.
how,
You don't do it by percentage, you do it by dollars.
but they
Right,
have to come back
Stephanie?
to eat, they have to equate.
Am I right about that?
Hang on.
Yeah, you do it by dollars, not by percentage. It has to do with the money, not the percentage.
But it still comes out to a percentage. Like, what am I missing?
With your permission.
Of course.
Thank you. Michael Marcello. You're confusing two numbers. Under state law, school committees can only ask for 4% more over their local appropriation, excluding state aid. So say you had $100 of local appropriation, you can only ask for $104 for this year from a local appropriation.
School committees can only
Ask.
So we're nowhere near that amount.
And I think I thought that's what your point is. So,
Okay, but
so if your local appropriation last year was 22,308,397, you could actually legally ask for 4% more. That's different from the 4% tax cap. It's a totally separate number. Because you could ask for 4% and that number could still be at 3.5%. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is even the school committee in the budget that they requested from the town council, they didn't ask for their increase of the total 4% appropriation. They only asked for 2.6% of the 4%. Am I correct on that? What could you give me what the total 4% would be if you asked of what's 22,308,397 plus 4%? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Michael,
I am
it's-
terrible at math.
Mike, can you explain to me, is the 4% is for the entire town?
It is not.
No, sure.
They're separate. There are two different
Okay,
numbers.
okay.
The
So-
local appropriation is the amount that the town has given the school committee last year. That's that appropriation, excluding state aid,
These are
excluding
two
federal aid.
separate statutes.
Two
correct?
separate statutes.
Okay.
The 4% tax cap is a totally different statute. So you can
Okay.
realistically give the school committee 4% and still be under the 4% cap, depending upon on the tax cap, depending on the two different numbers. And people
Okay.
get that awfully confused.
I just did.
Right, yeah. So I just
So the total would have been if we asked for the 4%.
local
So,
appropriation, the maximum.
right,
Yeah.
local appropriation. The figure first would have been $892,335 more
Correct.
in local
Repeat
appropriation.
that again, I'm sorry.
$892,335 more
Yep,
than
last year.
last year, and the total would have been $23,200,732.
23 million.
$200,732.
Write those numbers down.
Okay. Okay. So that's, I just wanted to, so even even the amount that the school committee asked for
Yep.
in their budget was under almost by $800,000, $800,000 less than what they could have asked for. I guess my point is being you've kind of been fiscal conservative on what the ask was given that amount. So again, David, that's outside of state aid. That's
Right.
just a local appropriation, what the taxpayers could contribute to the local school budget, excluding Medicaid aid, excluding
Right,
state
that-
and federal. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you couldn't ask for more than that.
Could not.
Could not. If you had asked for more than that, the town council could have sent that budget back and said you're violating the law. You come back with another number.
Okay.
That is not the.
Stephanie, what's the $1.4 million increase? That was what this budget was, the 2.54% budget. Is that all of it? And then 700,000 is state aid.
Where you seeing that, Dave? Sorry.
That's just in my notes on my budget thing. I remember when we were doing 2.5%, that was our overall ask. I thought was 1.4 million.
No, I think the 1.4 million would be an increase.
And then the state aid was 700,000.
That might have been from one of the prior budgets. We've had a bunch. Because now it's,
The 10%, I'm thinking.
You think so? Because it was on this one, 2.5, I wrote notes on that.
so over a
This
local
is 2.54.
appropriation from last year to this year, what we're asking, just local appropriation is 581,539 more. And
That's one more question, or just a clarification. The $160,000 that I think you talked about on the capital funds, that money's coming back on a reimbursement, 35% or whatever our reimbursement rate is, correct?
Right.
So
I don't even know that that's accurate, that number. that
Yeah,
we-
whatever the number they said, I did read the minutes as well. $160,000. There's, and I only know this because I represented a town that ran into this problem. That $160,000, assuming that it's coming back, it doesn't always come back in the next fiscal year in one shot. They sometimes delay it over, I think they have up to 5 years to give you back your reimbursement. So when the state becomes short of money, they start
That's
they
correct as well.
delay, they start delaying your reimbursement over a 5-year period. So there's no guarantee even, and I say that's capital, it's not operating. So you couldn't apply that to operating unless you're paying the bond back. But I just want to make that clear. So just because you are expecting 160, you're not going to get that in one, I can assure you, you're not going to get it in one shot.
It's normally in fall and then in
Correct.
spring, you're
I
right.
think we certainly need clarification. Don't go to me yet. I think we need clarification as to where this 160 number is coming from, because what you have in front of you, we don't see that coming in.
So while I was sitting here, I was trying to figure out
That's
where they,
that would assume that everything was completed by June.
I think that's their
No, that's
bond
not.
money coming back for the North
North
Situate
Situate,
fire
yeah.
alarm,
But
now that it's,
that
but that
money-
doesn't come to us, that goes to
And it
them.
goes to the town and it goes to pay the bond.
The number's wrong.
Well,
That's,
I'm sorry, but I thought you guys set up a revolving fund that some of that money would come back and actually refund the other improvements. It was supposed to be
Non-bond project.
non-bond
yes.
projects,
Yes.
only non-bonded.
correct.
Right.
And that's where the,
Right.
yes.
That's why on the capital budget that I give, you'll see me put HA housing aid, and then you'll see me put bond, so that everybody knows what's in play with.
So I think that's an important point to bring forward tomorrow night. That was clarification on that, is that I think there, because you're right, the non-bond project, and that was what Carolyn had started doing way
Right.
back when we weren't doing it forever, and we've built a substantial amount of money in that. Those monies come back and go right into the capital the pot. Bond money does not.
Right.
But even those monies that come back from the capital projects that are non-bond funded, you don't get that money back in the next fiscal year. Sometimes they.
It's always from the
I think
prior
they
year.
have 5 years to pay it back. Sometimes when they're flush, they pay it back.
And I think the way
They
it's,
don't, they delay it.
it's benefited us this time
I
is
see.
that we've been doing it consistently, so there's always something coming in. It may not be
Right.
last year's projects, but if we're spending about the same amount every year in time, those, do you know what I mean? It's just you're getting that much more back. And I wonder if
And the
that's,
building committee
I wonder
picks
if that's
those
that
projects
100
based on,
I think they're looking, if you took the, what was our capital budget? 400? So if you took 400, if 40% of 400,000 is 160,000, but that, I'm just using
Yep,
that, I'm
yep,
wondering
yep.
if that's where they got this number from.
Yeah.
But again, that's built into, that's how this works. That's why we have those separate funds. So and if they withdraw, make it less, I guess I could almost understand if they're not going to increase the funding, but to bring it down, the reason we have $160,000, and hopefully Carolyn can be a tomorrow,
And
she
we will-
understands this like it's her Bible, but we count on that $160,000 coming in to get us the sufficient pot to upkeep these.
Right, and that.
it's a
and
cash flow
No,
issue
it's
for
not
us.
bond.
Right.
We need
Yes,
that
yes.
cash to start the
Yeah.
next project.
But it's
so that
not
it can
taxpayer
circle back.
dollars. It's money that, because we've spent taxpayer dollars that we're recouping.
Not local
on-
taxpayers anyway.
Yes, thank you. Good point.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking right now when if he's pulling a number out of 160, I can't speak for anybody.
Well, that's what I was trying to do too. I was like,
But
where are they
like,
getting
it would
this?
be 400, roughly 40% of 400,000 is.
And again, all that, even if we spent the 400,000 and we had all the materials to get all the projects done, they have to be substantially completed by the end of the year. And for us to get reimbursement, and that's for the next year. And then
Right.
maybe
it's-
a quarter of that money doesn't come back to us. It goes back to the bond. And right now, we've got fire alarms as bond projects. So I think maybe there's a misunderstanding. We did go cover this at the,
We did talk about it
Yeah.
extensively.
For us to be there at the. I think just the last comment that I want, and I thought of it when Mr. Hassel was talking. When I first started doing this a long time ago, it was a lot of different people, and I don't know if I don't know if anybody here, maybe some people remember, and I don't know if Mr. Hassel remembers if it was still like this when you first started. So I spoke to teachers, I spoke to educators, I spoke to former principals when I first started, and I was gung ho, we gotta fix everything, do this, do that. And I was basically told that the way the budget process works is the way it historically had worked is that you fit a square peg into a round hole. I think that's how it says. So what would happen is a number was given to a principal and they were told, we didn't seek information from principals and from department chairs and from, they were given a number and make this work. And we have fought for the last 10 years to formulate a needs-based budget. And I think us doing anything other than that is reverting back to what put us in a structural deficit, which contributed to a decline in enrollment and performance. So it's going backwards. It really is. That just really stuck with me. And it was, someone said, well, no, this is how we do the budget around here. They just give us a number. And okay, so Mr. Hassel, you get $1 million. I'm just making it up. Okay, now you have to divide. It doesn't make a difference if you want to start a new program this year, because if you want to start a new program this year, you're going to have to take that money from your English department and give it to your math department. They're not going to get, so that's what we did for a very long time. And it was not successful. And it contributed to a decline in and all the things I mentioned previously. So going back that way again would be heartbreaking in so many ways. And it needs to be a needs-based budget, not a wants, right? I'm very confident that we are far beyond, I think Mr. Hassel can speak best to, I hate to say it, but he's been situatized enough to realize you can't come in guns a-blazing looking to run a class with 4 kids. Not gonna happen. So our principals are at a place where we're a very fiscally conservative town. I think we all know that. We can all acknowledge that. So I think our principals have been doing this long enough. Our superintendent, obviously our finance director, have been doing this long enough to know that what we're asking for is needs-based. Mic drop. What I got.
Are there any other comments from other school committee members? No. So we go tomorrow and advocate for this budget as it stands and see where we land.
Clarification purposes, the meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Yes,
And it is at the former police station, which is across the street from Hope Jackson Fire Department.
correct.
Just for our viewing audience.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.